Hey everybody, this video is going to talk about N-400 vocabulary, and this is specifically on the topic of military activities. So let's get started here. To start, let's talk about 5 vocabulary words. The first 3 kind of go together in a group: military, police unit, and rebel group. And these are all groups that kind of fight, but they fight in different ways and for different reasons. So first of all, let's talk about the military. The military is a group that fights for the government. They usually wear some kind of uniforms, they train together. That's very organized. That's military, okay? The next is a police or a police unit, and this is a group that makes sure that people follow the laws. So these officers keep the peace, they make sure that everybody is safe, they stay inside of their own country to sort of control and take care of the people in their own country. The military is different because the military tends to fight other countries. So this is military and police. The last word you need to know is a rebel group. This is a group that fights against the government. So in this picture you can see an example. You can see all these people are holding guns. They're ready to fight, but they're not wearing uniforms. They're not really part of the army. They're just like regular people that are fighting against their government. So these 3 words are words that sometimes come up in the interview, and you should know them. The next 2 words are prison and labor camp. So prison is a place where people stay after they break the law. They have to stay here as their punishment. So depending on, the crime, the judge may tell you you have to stay 1 year in prison or 5 years in prison, etc. A labor camp is a little bit different. This is a camp where people are forced to do very hard work. Sometimes this is a punishment. Sometimes this happens during a war when people are prisoners during a war. You can see there's a soldier here who is supervising, and then these are the prisoners that they have to work in the camp. So usually in the N-400, if this comes up, they may ask you, were you a guard in a prison? Were you a guard in a labor camp? Did you ever work in one of these places? So let's do a little practice. I want to know if you remember those 5 words. Take a minute, pause the video, and write down the words that you remember. Okay, do you have all 5 words written down? You should have number 1, military, 2, police, 3, rebel group, 4 is prison, and 5, labor camp. Now I want to know if you can do the same thing but with different pictures. So one more time, pause the video and write down the vocabulary that goes with these pictures. Are you ready? Do you have all 5 written down? If you didn't write them down, pause the video now to do it. But I'm going to go over the answers. Number 6 is prison, 7, rebel group, 8, police, 9, labor camp, and 10 is military. So those are 5 important words. I hope those are starting to sound familiar. Let's continue now. I have 4 more vocabulary words I want to teach you. We're going to start with military training. So training is like teaching or education. That's a place where you learn things. So military training is where you get some education about things that they do in the military. Sometimes it looks like this, so you have to do exercise and you have to get in physical shape to fight. Sometimes it looks like this, where you go to a class and you study theories and strategies. Sometimes military training is learning to use technology and computers and radar and things like that. Sometimes military training is going out into the field and having some practice exercises or practice battles or things like that. So all of these things can be military training. It's any kind of education or practice that you got for serving in the military. And if you have experience in the military, then it's possible this topic could come up in your interview and you need to explain what kind of training you had, what kind of work you did for the military. The next word you need to know, weapons. These are tools that are used for fighting or for war. So you might have, for example, knives or guns. This third one here is bombs. The last one is rockets. So all of these things fall into that category of weapons. Okay. And in the N-400, we have a question about weapons training. So, for example, if you got some education or teaching about how to use guns, as you can see in these pictures, that's something that you can be asked in the citizenship interview. Did you have weapons training? In this picture, these men are learning how to throw a grenade. This is another type of weapons training. So this is specifically weapons training. And it's a little bit different from military training. Military training includes many things. Part of military training can be weapons training like this, but military training is a little bit more like broad or general. The last thing you need to know is if you sell weapons, there is a question in the N-400 that asks, have you ever sold weapons? So, for example, this man has a store, he's a salesperson, and he has a customer, he's giving them information and selling weapons. This is another topic that, if you had some activities like this in your life, probably they will ask you about them, and you'll need to explain that in the interview. So, for a little practice here, let's review all of the words that we learned so far. Pause the video to take a piece of paper and write down these words. Are you ready for the answers? Number 11 is labor camp, 12, rebel group, 13, prison, 14, police, 15, military. So, okay, and these are the new words. Pause the video to write them down. Ready? Number 16 is weapons, and 17 is weapons training. Last one, number 18. Pause the video to write this down. Got your answer? The answer should be military training. So, just as a conclusion here, we learned 8 words in this lesson. Police, military, rebel group, prison, labor camp, weapons training, weapons, and military training. So I hope you can remember those. Please practice them if they were difficult for you. And that's the end of this lesson.